Good morning, everyone, and thank you so much for joining us today for Clubhouse Chats as part of Girls in Science with the Denver Museum of Nature and Science. It's been a delightful month full of events, getting to know different incredible mentors from all kinds of different STEM and STEAM fields, and today is our last day of live events. Thankfully, though, we do have a whole website full of activities that you can do on your own at home anytime. That'll remain live through the end of the year, so the fun continues. But today we do have another exciting live event for you, and it's time for us to get started. My name is Talia. I'm part of the virtual experiences team here at the Denver Museum of Nature and Science, and I am so excited to get to be your host and MC for Remy Lyle and Morgan Smith of Ping Identity. They're going to teach you all about computer security today, cybersecurity, and their incredible role within that field. But before I hand the microphone over to them, just a couple of quick housekeeping items before we get going. We have three audiences on with us today. We have a Zoom audience today, a Facebook audience today, and a YouTube audience. So a big hello to everybody who's watching today. Feel free to leave us a comment on Facebook and YouTube and let us know where you're watching from. And if you're in the Zoom audience today, you can pop in the chat and let us know where you're watching from today, what you're excited to learn about. You can tell us how old you are, what your favorite pizza topping is, whatever you want to put in there. We're excited to learn a little bit about you. So that chat is open. Go ahead and put it in there at any time. And that's where we're also going to be watching today to pull your questions for the experts. So my big job is going to be to have my eyes on that chat, pull those questions that you ask, read out any responses that you have to questions we ask you. So make sure you put those in there throughout the time today. And of course, do be respectful. We have a lot of people watching. We'll try and get through as many questions as we can. So do us a favor, only use that Zoom chat for things like questions or answers to what we ask you or observations, because if we end up with too many things in that chat, might be a little bit hard for me to find all of those questions. We might not get through as many, but looks like we already have some chats coming in. So hi to the Carpenter family watching from Winter Park. Alana would like us to know that she loves unicorns. Alana and I have that in common. And it looks like Jennifer says that her favorite topping is pepperoni. She's watching from Denver. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and bring in the spotlights of our two incredible mentors today, Remy and Morgan, both of whom are computer security engineers. And they're going to tell us a little bit more about their specific titles, about their jobs, what those jobs mean, and what it's like to be them, both on the job and outside of work. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you. Ladies, take it away.
Hi. So welcome. So excited to be here. My name is Morgan, and I'm a computer engineer. I work at Ping Identity, and I help people use our products and build them into their infrastructure and help secure their usernames and passwords.
Awesome. Well, hello, everybody. Morgan is one of my best friends at work. I'm so excited to be doing this with her. Officially, my name is Remy Lyle. I am a technical director at Ping Identity, but Morgan and I are both computer software engineers in cybersecurity. And yeah, thanks for having us today. And we can't wait for all of your questions and share stories with you guys. And yeah, we just want you guys to get to know us. So.
Absolutely. So tell us a little bit about what your job actually means. I think all of us, especially over the last year, have been really used to working on screens, on computers, and maybe we've gotten some notes, especially any of you out there who have done virtual learning. Maybe we've heard from our teachers or from some other adults in our lives, hey, you have to be safe online. And these two have the incredible job of making sure that happens. So tell us a little bit about what your job actually means. You can tell us about a day in the life of your work. Tell us a little bit more.
Sure. So we do a lot and a lot of different things every day. Often I'm meeting with customers and talking about our products on how we can help solve how they're logging in and protecting their users. So that could be their employees or their customers to authenticate. So using that username and password to get into their applications. I could be building things. So building things with our products and making some real life interactions for our users, and just researching a lot, figuring out how we can solve problems and help everyone.
Yeah,
Awesome.
no. Oh, just to add to what Morgan said, I think the key takeaway is that her and I solve problems all day long, right? Like hackers are always trying to come up with crazy things to, potentially do, not so good things online. And it's Morgan's and I's job to help protect, obviously, you know, all of us from any actions that those hackers might take, or any other, you know, people with bad intentions online. And, you know, so it's our job to try and solve those different problems every day. And it's really exciting, right? So, I mean, I think our field is, it's very rewarding, you know, in kind of an unusual way, because, you know, we are sort of the warriors behind the scenes to try and make sure that, you know, we're doing everything that we can to help our customers, to help kids like you guys stay safe online. And so, yeah, it's very exciting.
Absolutely. And very important, extra important in this day and age where so many things take place online.
Absolutely.
Now, Morgan, you have a cool montage of what a day in the life of your work looks like. We're going to go ahead and bring that up. And while we play it, why don't you tell us a little bit about how that works?
Of course. Let's do it. Yeah. So obviously I'm sitting at my desk here. You can see I'm using Slack to message with my coworkers and peers. I'm also using Zoom there to share my screen and talk about how our products interact. You saw briefly there, I have my terminal. I'm writing some code to demonstrate our functionality, doing some research as well. So doing a lot of things that you guys might be doing every day as well. So using Zoom, messaging your friends, doing things like that. Did you guys recognize any of those tools, or do you use any of those tools in your day-to-day?
Yeah, pop in the chat and let us know. I do also have an eye on our Facebook stream. So if you're watching on Facebook and you want to leave us a comment there, we'll see it. We'll be able to read it out. Looks like Elise says they use Zoom. Same thing with Jennifer. I see one question wondering how long this program's going to last today. We'll be about 45 minutes. So we'll be done at about 10:45 Mountain Time. I wonder if anybody else uses something like Zoom, maybe in your virtual learning that you've done this year. I know I certainly use Zoom all the time. That's what we're doing right now. I don't use Slack in my work, but I use some other similar platforms to make sure I'm in touch with my colleagues. Some people say Google Meet, they maybe use WebEx, so lots of different tools out there. And those are all, yeah, web-based tools where it's really important for us to stay safe. Jill specifies that they use those things at school. And yeah, that sounds about right. I think a lot of people have done school like that this year. Remy, is there anything that you'd like to add to that? I see so many people chiming in with their favorite tools to use for school and work.
Yeah, you know, it's amazing because, you know, even though we are professionals at this job, I think at the end of the day, we are all trying to make this work virtually. So I'm not surprised at all that we have lots of common tools with all the kiddos on the call. You know, it's definitely a different world that we live in, and one that is, you know, getting to be more and more digital, and definitely doing a lot more things online. And so that's part of the reason why hopefully you guys took a look at our activity in our Clubhouse, where we talked a little bit about this concept of identity verification, and how important it is in certain times to know whether the person on the other side of the computer is really who they say they are, versus not, right? And so we hope you guys had a lot of fun with that activity. And learning a little bit about identity verification, and just a little preview of the things that Morgan and I do every day. So thanks for that.
It can get a little obnoxious sometimes when your phone wants you to like put your thumbprint on something and you're trying to sign into your email inbox. Maybe that's just me. I sometimes am like, really? I have to hit another button to be able to check my email. But then I remember it's there for a good reason, right? It's making sure that
Yes,
I'm the one who's actually checking my email and nobody else is trying to get into our system. That's really important, and it's only going to get more important as the world continues and as more and more things start to become virtual.
absolutely.
Now, before we continue, because we have a lot more to talk about, we have a poll question to ask the audience. Is now the right time? Is there anything else you want to say before we bring that poll up?
No, let's do it.
All right. One quick thing I will say before we start that poll. If you are watching today and you need our American Sign Language interpreter to help you watch along today, awesome. And that poll is going to pop up in the middle of your screen. So you might need to just move it off to the side so that you can still see interpretation. Just wanted to make sure everybody was clear about that before we got started. Let's go ahead and take a look. So that poll has popped up. We're wondering, what would you find most appealing about a career in cybersecurity? Maybe somebody watching today is saying, I want to do what Remy and Morgan do. They seem like really cool people. And it's true, they are. We're wondering, maybe it's a rewarding job. You think it's really rewarding to prevent bad guys from doing stuff online. Maybe it's something that sounds really exciting and never boring to you. Maybe it's because it's something that pays well and there's always jobs available. So you know it's a good secure field to get into. Or maybe it's all of those things or a combination of those things. So you tell us what you think. And if there's a different answer, you can type in the chat. Maybe there's something else that's really appealing about this to you. Like maybe you like video games and computers and you don't quite know if you want to go into computer or software engineering, but something with computers is interesting to you. We're open to that too. So tell us what you think in the chat. I see some questions popping in. We'll get to those in a little bit. For now, go ahead and get those responses in the chat. I can see people's comments are flooding in, people's votes, I should say. We'll take a look in just a moment. I think all of those things personally sound pretty good to me. I don't know about you all, if there is a specific motivation for you, but all those things sound like good reasons to pursue this career, at least in my mind. Let's take a look at those results. Looks like the majority of our audience today, at least in Zoom, and again on Facebook and YouTube, you're welcome to leave us a comment and let us know what you think. Most people say all of the above, but a couple people say it sounds really rewarding and cool, and some people say it pays well. And you know what? All of those things are things that you consider when you're thinking about a future career. That is great.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the only thing I just want to add in here is that, you know, when I was, I think probably as young as probably your guys' age, I think I was about 10, 11 years old. You know, I was exposed to computers at an early age. I was exposed to programming classes at an early age. And I think having such an early insight into, you know, what, you know, a career in computers would be like, or cybersecurity would be like. And of course, watching, you know, the hacker movies that were available and popular at the time, you know, it definitely just generated a lot of excitement in my eager young mind of, oh my gosh, like how cool, like, you know, they have to solve this problem and, you know, they have to do it with this computer and they're at a terminal and they're like trying to figure it out. And I don't know, I just found that really cool and exciting. And I hope that that's something with you guys, if you're playing video games or you're doing all your various activities online, you find that appealing. And of course, you know, the job security and all of that is something that you don't really typically think about. But I think at this age, it's not bad to kind of start thinking about that as well, because it does have really good career stability. And we, you know, definitely encourage more women and more young ladies to join us in our field. So.
Absolutely. That's a big part of Girls in Science, right? Is showing off some careers where maybe women aren't as frequent. Maybe that's the wrong way of saying that, but there aren't as many women. They're underrepresented. There aren't as many women in the field as there should be. And I think computer science is definitely one of those. So all of you who are watching today, maybe you really like playing Minecraft or you really like playing Roblox or something else online. Among Us, I know, is really popular too. Somebody had to design those games and someone has to make sure that they are safe interfaces for people to log into. Maybe you just really like computers and you know that this is a field you might want to get into. I think it's only going to get more and more popular from here. More and more things are transitioning to happening online. So we're going to need you, anybody who's interested in computer science, to join Remy and Morgan on their team and help keep the rest of us safe. Now, if there's anything else you want to add about your career and your day in the life, we should definitely talk about it. And I'm also interested in knowing a little bit about what you like to do outside of work and how you came to this exciting career. So what would you like to share next?
I think Morgan has a very exciting day in the life video, so.
She does. Let's roll the tape and take a look at what Morgan likes to do outside of her incredible job.
So I have a bearded dragon. So here I am feeding my morning routine of feeding my baby. His name is Branch. He's a little sassy, so you can see he reacts a little bit. We like to go for walks. So my roommate has a dog named Indy, and we hang out every day. I also love building rockets. It's something I started as a child, and I like to share this with my niece and nephew. So shooting those off are really exciting as well. The other thing I like to do is that I actually coach lacrosse over at East High School. So I played lacrosse in college and ended up here. So doing a whole coaching interaction.
And tell me real fast what they were saying in that cheer in case someone didn't catch that one.
Oh, it's East Angels. Hey, Lolo, hey, Lolo, hey. So if you're in the Denver area, you might have heard this before because that is the chant of the East High School Angels.
Very good. I went to Thomas Jefferson, so there's still a little bit of rivalry there, but it's okay. I'll forgive you.
Fair enough.
Remy, how about you? What do you like to do outside of your job?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, I'm a new mom, so I have a toddler and an 8-month-old baby boy. Hopefully you guys saw little bits of clips of him. Yes, there he is, on our Clubhouse. And being a mom and having a career is something that and that's my dog Boots. He's actually right next to me here too. But yeah, no, having a family life, I feel is like so important, because I think there is. Oh, and by the way, I have chickens. That is Barbie, by the way. Heads up, she is a blue silky chicken, and I love having chickens. Clearly, Morgan and I have an affinity for animals. I also love fashion, as you can see, a little preview of my closet. Could be slightly more organized, but that's okay. But yeah, no, I'm a mom. I have animals, all kinds of animals. I clearly have a love for all beautiful handbags and purses. And also I love to do yoga. So it's interesting being in in these kind of pandemic times, because I've had to change up my health routine a little bit, but staying healthy and being active. Clearly, Morgan feels the same way with her being a lacrosse coach. But our health is just as important as our minds. And those are just some of the things that I like to do. But I think one thing that I just want to impart to the audience today is that you don't have to be a specific stereotype to have a career in engineering or even computer science, right? Like, I in my interview with CBS, not sure if you guys saw that, but I talked about how there might be this vision, the stereotypical vision of it's just dudes, right, and dudes in a basement that take on this career. But as you can see with Morgan and I, we live full, active lives with families and friends and animals, from chickens to bearded dragons. And come as you are. There's really no requirement of any type of race or gender to have an exciting career. And we want you guys to feel welcomed. And we'd love to see definitely more diversity and more women, of course, in our field. So just want to make sure that you guys kind of keep that in mind, that we're always looking. So
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that I really love about you sharing these aspects of your lives is that sometimes people think that women can maybe only do one thing, right? Like, I think there's sometimes a perception among people of like, well, if you have a family, can you really focus on having a career? Or if you have a career, can you really take care of a family? And first of all, I'd just like to point out that people don't usually ask men or boys that question. That's usually a question that only women really get. And the answer is, of course, you can do it all. If you decide that there are things that are important to you, whether that's looking really good and paying attention to fitness and fashion and all of those things, or that's having a family and balancing that family life with your work life, you can do that. So if there's anyone out there that's like, you know what, I know I really want to be a parent someday, and I know I really want to have a career, you can do that. You do not have to put yourself in one single box. Or if you're someone who's like, you know what, I love getting my nails done, I love getting my hair done, I love makeup, I love pretty clothes, but I also love science. Heck yeah, girl, get it. You can like all of those things all at the same time. Remy and Morgan are both proof of that. And of course, everybody loves animals. So if you saw something in any of those video clips or pictures that you want to pop in the chat or in the Facebook comments and tell us you also like, if you found something in common with Remy and Morgan today, tell us in the comments or in the chat, because we want to know. It's fun for us to learn a little bit about you too. And I also want to hear about, in just a moment, how you both came to this exciting career and maybe who supported you, how you got this inspiration. But before we do, I just want to call out, I see one great comment on Facebook from Darren. Darren is from the Royal Tyrrell Museum of Paleontology, which is in Canada. So very cool. This is officially an international event. Very awesome. And Darren says, I waited for years for it to happen, but it never did. So I went ahead and created the Facebook group Women in Vertebrate Paleontology, and over 700 women and men who support women in paleontology are members of that group. So that's a really important note too, is that sometimes it can feel hard to carve out a space in the STEM field. If you are a woman, if you are someone who identifies as female, it can feel hard to find your place. And sometimes you have to go make that place. So big shout out to Darren. Thank you so much for leaving us that comment. I know we have a handful of female vertebrate paleontologists here at the Museum of Nature and Science who maybe have joined that same group along with you. All right, so I have to know, you obviously said, Remy, you were exposed to some movies as hacker movies when you were younger. You were exposed to some things that made you say, I think this is a really cool career. But I'd love to hear a little bit from both of you about who really inspired you. What sorts of things drove you toward wanting to have this career? And Morgan, I don't know if you shared that just yet. Do you want to tell us a little bit more?
Sure. So similar to Remy, my parents exposed me. So thanks, Dad. Thanks, Mom. For supposed to be to computers and to being online early on. My dad had me helping him take apart computers and see all the inner workings and doing all that stuff. So I was interested in it from a young age as well. When I hit high school, I got convinced to take a web design class, and the teacher, Mrs. Pierman, so if she's watching, hey, convinced me to take her computer science class in high school, and I was embarrassed about it, nervous about it, and I loved it. So it was from that point on, I was in it. I was doing computer science, and I went to college as a computer science major. But doing that, I also still was able to be in a sorority and play lacrosse. So you can definitely be diverse, even following that nerdy heart that's deep within me. And I'm very pleased that I was able to stick it out and take that leap. So it was great.
Absolutely. And Remy, what about you? Anything else you want to tell us?
Yeah, I think the one story that I'll share is, my family and I immigrated to the U.S. When I was around 14. And, I talked about, being exposed, with, computers at an early age. Well, I also was a little bit probably younger just because of how the school systems worked. I was 14 when I was a junior in high school. And I remember my guidance counselor saying, you had moved from the Philippines, age wise, you could be with a freshman, but credits wise, you could be with the juniors, right? And, I just remember, why would I want to retake any courses? I'm like, put me in with with the older kids, right? And I was just not, I had always grown up in a family that, my mom and my sisters always boosted my confidence. I come from a family where my mom is the eldest of 7 girls. So I come from definitely a family of very powerful women. And so I was just very unafraid. And I said, yeah, let's go to school at a younger age. So I graduated high school at 16. And I entered, the University of South Florida with my going for my bachelor's in computer engineering at the age of 16. Graduated by the time I was 20. And so, ironically enough, I was not legal to drink by the time I actually graduated with my engineering degree. So, that was really fun. But, I think along the way, nobody ever told me to be scared or that, I shouldn't be doing what I was doing. I think it really helps to have a positive community of people that support you, support your dreams. No matter, and having kind of like that right guidance throughout your life and having the right mentors in place is super critical. Like I said, I have, my family that along the way has really been inspirational to me. But obviously I've had a lot of teachers and mentors, pretty much every computer science, computer science, computer programming teacher that I've had has always just cheered for me. And I'm so grateful for that community. And I hope that's something that in doing, events like this, I can give back to the community and inspire, the next set of generation that you guys, there are positive mentors out there and that there are people that are rooting for you, no matter how big or, ostentatious your dreams might be. So
That's right. Yeah, we've heard that same message from a few of our different mentors throughout this month. Is like, don't be afraid to think really big or dream really big. It's really easy sometimes to get caught up in like, well, I don't know if I can discover this thing. I don't know if I can change the world. I don't know if I can accomplish all the things that I want to accomplish. It's okay to think really big, because even if you think big and where you end up going is kind of somewhere along the way, you still accomplish some really incredible stuff. And if you've got really great people in your corner, just like both of our mentors have had today, you'll get there. And all of us believe in you. So on that heartwarming note, I think it's time for us to take some questions from the audience, unless there are any last things you both would like to say before we move on.
Yeah, I think we're ready.
All right, let's do it. So I saw a couple of questions in the Zoom chat about this same sort of thing, thinking about hackers and this idea of like people who might try and be a bad guy online. Have you ever stopped a hacker? Like, have you ever had a moment where you were like, "Ha, I gotcha"? And how do you do it? What are some ways that you might stop hackers from getting onto people's accounts or accessing people's devices? Tell us a little bit about how that works.
So I don't know about Remy, but I've never actually had to look a hacker down through the computer or anything like that. We work in a way that we're securing things so it hopefully never happens, that we're stopping the hackers before they even get to that point. So things like multi-factor. So I know as mentioned earlier, having to get those notifications on your phone, which can be very annoying, but it means if that happens and you're not logging on, someone else is doing it, right? And someone else has some of your credentials, which is very bad. So those step ups or those push notifications or those text messages are really there to protect your accounts and your logons, right?
Yeah, I think what I'll just add on to Morgan's, what she had mentioned here is that I would say when we do have hackers that we prevent, it's a lot of times there's a group of them that are kind of probably referred to as like white hackers, where they work for the good guys, if you will, and they work with us to identify any any gaps, any vulnerabilities in the system, and they inform folks, engineers like Morgan and myself, as to the status of things, and we hopefully can put up some barriers or code against some of those things, right? So probably not in the sense of like evil hackers, but we definitely work with what I'll just call the white hackers probably a whole lot of time. So that's a good group to be a part of.
So it sounds like their job is really to try and hack systems, break things, and say, here's where your weaknesses are, and this is where you're going to need to look for a different kind of solution. Is that right?
Absolutely, yes.
Yep, good idea. Yeah, I saw a few different questions about hackers, and one came in from Kristen just now saying, have you ever had a hacker hack into somebody's account? And it sounds like, the biggest job here, the biggest part of both of these mentors' jobs is to make sure that doesn't happen. There's an old saying, what is it? It's like an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. It's way, way easier to make sure that hackers cannot access your account or anybody else's account than to try and undo the damage once they've done it. So that's a big part of what these two do. What suggestions would you have for people who are watching today about how to keep their accounts most secure? What are some things that maybe people don't think of, or maybe things that people do all the time that maybe are putting their accounts at risk? What would you suggest for them? Remy, do you want to start with that one?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely, there's the basic safety practices, right? So having a really strong password. Please don't write your passwords on sticky notes or, in a notepad on your computer. I mean, these are basic things. Also, anytime you can enable, multi-factor authentication, and again, the reason why that works so well is because somebody that's trying to get in has to have, multiple factors, if you will. So they have to know your password, they have to have your phone. And the one thing that I'll maybe just clarify, because I think this sounds like a very exciting topic for the audience at hand. And it's something that as security professionals, this is one of the core concepts, but you can't really ever say that something is 100% secure. Like, we don't want to be the Titanic, right? Like, we don't want to say like something is never going to happen, but it's Morgan's and I's job to put up as many barriers as possible relative to the data or the item or the program that we're trying to, the value of that we're trying to protect, right? So as an example, if it's, I'm just trying to think of like a really quick example, but let's just say it's, a simple website that doesn't really have, a lot of data, you might put one or two barriers up, again, relative to the thing that you're protecting. But, if we're starting to talk about like government secrets and, government documents, I mean, that's when they like really put a whole, castle and moat situation around that, right? And it's all in an effort to just try to make it harder. But I think to say that something is like fully, like no one can ever touch it is a little bit of a misnomer, I guess. And so that's just something to think about. You want to be, You want to be even with the value of the item that you're protecting. So
that makes a lot of sense. If there's a website that sort of stores somebody's like bank account numbers or social security numbers, things that could really impact people, that's, maybe you hear about this in the news, or if any younger kids are watching today, maybe your parents have heard about this before. Sometimes if there's a data breach and people's like names and birthdays and personal information gets revealed, someone gets their hands on that information, that can have a really big impact on somebody's life. They could take money from them, or they could use their name and their information to open up a new credit card and spend some different money. That can get really, really messy. So yeah, it's important to remember nothing's 100% secure, but we do everything we can to make sure.
Absolutely.
As secure as it can be. Good clarification. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
I'm going to check my handy dandy device because there's a question on YouTube from Mickey. So we'll bring that one up. Mickey wonders, is being a researcher or doing what you do, trying to figure out all of these different systems, designing these different systems, a really high demand job, like 24/7? Or is this more of like a 9 to 5? How's your work-life balance? Which is a really good question. It's important to think about that too when you're picking a future career. Tell us about that. And Morgan, maybe you can tell us a bit.
Sure. I would say in our roles, Remy, I would say we're definitely in a 9 to 5. Work-life balance is very good. I'm not on call for things breaking or for bad things happening over the weekend. But there are people at Ping that do support those roles, right? There's, in the support organization, there's people that are there to take your calls 24/7 if something were to break. So, but hopefully, I think they have it worked out that they're not working. It's not one person just working all the time, right? There's a whole team to cover the appropriate time. So most jobs in the cybersecurity space, I would say, give you the flexibility to have that work-life balance.
Yeah, that's another important aspect of picking a future career, right? Like there are some careers where you need to be ready to work kind of any time of the day or night. And obviously you work in shifts, but thinking about like doctors, paramedics, they might sometimes work in the overnight hours, or they might work weekends and holidays. And some people are like, nah, I like to go to bed at 9:30 and wake up at 6 and have a cup of coffee. Anybody else? Just me? So I'm definitely a fan of a specific kind of schedule, and maybe some people are too, and maybe some people like the idea of a variable schedule all over the place. But I'm glad that Mickey asked that question, because that's a cool aspect of careers to think about too, that maybe somebody who's just starting to think about what they want to be someday hasn't quite thought through yet. So that's a little question for everybody to marinate on. I see a question, and I wonder if this person was just so stunned at how fluffy Barbie was. But one family is wondering, Barbie is a chicken? So tell us a little bit more, Remy, about your adorable, super cute, super fluffy chickens. And before you do that, I will say I did see one note from someone saying, wait, I didn't get to see Barbie. If you were watching on a mobile device today, you might need to swipe from side to side to see us in gallery view, because the videos will pop up in my video feed. So if you're not seeing me right now, then you might not see the video. So you might need to swipe a little bit. But let's take a look at Barbie the chicken. I think we're going to bring a video of her up in just a moment, and you can tell us a little bit more about being a chicken parent.
Yeah. So that is Barbie, and I don't know if you guys noticed, but she actually has her own penthouse. You see I have 4 other girls in the background there. Hopefully you guys can see them in that video. But yes, Barbie is a silky chicken. So I had always, my father in Manila had always, we kind of lived on a little farm, and we've always had, chickens and rabbits and, all kinds of animals running around. So it was a wonderful childhood. Thank you, Dad. And so, moving to Denver, I was, kind of always longing for that time where I could also have chickens at one point. And like Morgan, I have a host of animals. Before I had kids, I actually had 3 dogs, 2 of them being senior dogs. I love adopting senior animals. There's just nothing like it. And when I had lost kind of 2 of the older dogs, I had a little bit of a gap in my heart. And, my husband relented and said, all right, let's look at getting some chickens. And so we had gotten to 4 girls, and then we were at a resort in New Mexico where instead of so it's supposed to be like stress therapy, or like an enjoyable activity, but instead of like puppies, because it's been proven that being surrounded by puppies kind of lifts your spirits, they were very creative, and instead of puppies, they had silky chickens, and that was the first time I had encountered silky chickens, and I just knew right away I had to have one. And luckily, I had looked Barbie up on Craigslist, and ironically enough, that day there was one blue silky chicken available. I had met her former owner, and so I had adopted Barbie, and she's very special. She has clearly her own little penthouse, and the other girls have theirs. And yeah, and having a silky chicken, if you guys have never petted a silky chicken, it kind of feels like a rabbit in a weird way. They don't have like the thick skulls like some of the other girls do. They're also a little bit smaller. They're considered like a bantam breed. But yeah, she's very pretty. So we love Barbie.
Raise your hand if you want a silky chicken now. That sounds really, really fun. And Morgan, you have so many different hobbies outside of work. I saw a comment from Forenza saying rockets are really fun. So what can you tell us a little bit more about your hobby of shooting off rockets?
Yeah, so I started building rockets, like I said, with my father at a young age. And I think it was for my 23rd birthday, he decided to send me a bunch more model rockets. So I still have, I think, 4 or 5 in my closet that I haven't built yet. But you can see they're probably a foot or so long, and you do have to get actual engines to put in them and launch them. So it is a really fun activity. They can survive a couple launches usually, but if that parachute fails, your rocket's probably going to break as well. So it's definitely a fun activity. And if you don't build them correctly, I've had one light on fire once, which was slightly dangerous, but not always the best at building them, but still fun. And sometimes you do get those really exciting, successful launches.
You got to be ready for a little bit of loss. There's always a little bit of risk involved in something like rocketry. That makes a lot of sense and sounds really cool. And it sounds like there are a handful of other rocketry fans watching with us today. So hopefully everybody can get outside and launch some things. It's supposed to be very nice out here in Denver today. So hopefully everybody can get outdoors and shoot some things off into the sky. That sounds really fun. All right, we are coming up on about 5 minutes left in our time. And so I'm going to direct a question to both of you, and I'd like both of you to give us an answer. A few people in the Zoom chat are wondering, what is your favorite part of your job? Do you like your job? Tell us a little bit more about that. And I'm also wondering, what's hard about your job? Maybe what can be difficult sometimes, and what sort of challenges do you have to overcome? So Remy, let's start with you. What do you like about your job, and what's hard about it?
Yeah, so what I love about my job is definitely breaking the barriers, right? And when I say that, my official title is actually a director. So I am a female leader at Ping. So to me, I just, we talked about, having more female representation in our industry. So for me, I really enjoy, kind of breaking the barriers for the other ladies that are going to come, after me. And of course, I appreciate all the other women that have come before us. We have a number of wonderful female leaders and mentors at Ping. A number of them are in our C-suite. We have a number of them that are our vice president roles. And so to me, that's the favorite part, is just seeing all these women blaze the trail and just being a part of that. And I would say the hardest part of my job, gosh, this is gonna sound, but like you really do have a very good work-life balance at Ping. But I would probably say it's just like having to, but it's probably the most challenging, but it's also the most rewarding. I would say it's when we have clients that have pretty complicated, complex problems for us to solve with how their infrastructure is set up, or how the network is set up, and Morgan and I having to figure out, like, well, how do we solve it this way? How do we, protect them the best? How do we meet their requirements? If they are, a lot of times we work with clients that are in banking versus retail, and, banking has its own set of regulations and requirements. And our clients in, for example, the retail space will have their own set of requirements. So I think it's just really keeping up with the technology and just being on top of our game is probably the most challenging part of the job, but I feel like it's also the most rewarding, and it's also why I'm like never bored at my job. So
Yeah, if it's hard, it never gets boring, and there's always problems to solve. Morgan, what about you?
Yeah, I think I'll have to agree a lot with Remy on the challenging part. Staying up to date on our own stuff as well as the requirements that surround it is definitely the hardest part. I feel like people are coming up with new rules every other week, so we're just trying to keep up and do that part. But I do love my job so much. Like Remy said, working with the smart people that work at Ping is really exciting to see just where we're going and to females specifically, it's always great. But we just have a lot of great thought leaders at Ping, and seeing that develop is very exciting.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's got to be a perk, right? I think I've heard it said before that like even a not fun job or a hard job, and it sounds like your job is very fun already, so you're already starting from a good place. It's all about the people that you work with. You know, even if your job is tough or some parts of it are really challenging or really draining, working with good people can be such an important and restorative part of doing that. So it's very cool to hear that that's a situation for you. And I know at the start you said you guys are like work besties, which is even cooler. Be able to work with each other and have such a cool partner in crime in everything that you're doing, or partner in stopping cyber crime.
Right. Yeah,
exactly. Qualify that expression. That's great. Well, in our last few minutes, another question for both of you, and this will round us out today. What would you say to somebody who's interested in pursuing a career in computer science, software engineering, doing something like you? What advice would you have for someone watching today? Morgan, let's have you start.
Oh boy. No, I mean, especially if you find it interesting, pursue it. Don't stop. Don't let the perception of what being a computer scientist or a computer engineer or whatever stereotype that's put on that, don't let that stop you. Be the different one in the room and stand up on that and be proud of it. I definitely am often the only woman in a room, and I own it, right? I'm proud to be a woman, and I'm proud to be in that room and having a voice in this field. So just shatter all those walls and those stereotypes.
That's great. I love that. Yeah, own it. It can be scary sometimes to be the only female or the only woman in a room. And sometimes you just got to say, you know what? I'm here for a reason. I have a seat at this table because I deserve it. That's great. Remy, how about you?
Yeah, I would have to say, I obviously agree with everything that Morgan said, but I think the thing that I want to emphasize is, take advantage of as many outside school opportunities that you can. Things, events like this, I think, are really crucial. And, things that don't necessarily fit in a standard like school curriculum, try to find those opportunities. And I would encourage, all the young ladies and gentlemen out there to try and find something that they're really passionate about, right? And if you do find that computer science and engineering is that for you, then just like dive right in and pursue all these extracurricular activities that are outside of that. I think that when you enjoy, life is never just about like the money or the rewards, right? I think the enjoyment aspect of it and truly being passionate about what you do is so important. And so I would say foster those interests in engineering and cybersecurity as much as you can, and hopefully we can help especially with the help of Ping, give you guys more opportunities like this to where we can set you guys up in an environment outside of the normal classroom. So
very good. One final question, because it just came in right at the wire, and this is a question for Remy, and really quick answer from the Wagers family, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, wondering what's the funniest hacker movie you saw?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so it's not really quite a hacker movie, but Morgan and I refer to it all the time. But it's that scene from Jurassic Park where there's a velociraptor like at the door, and the young girl said I think that's why I identified with it so much, but I can never get that visual out of my mind where there's a dinosaur that's ready to come and like tear their family apart, and she's at the terminal and she's just trying to figure out how to like boot all the power systems so that the locks come on and all that stuff. And that's, I don't know why, but like seriously, to me, like when I think that was probably like what got me so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, I can save my family, protect them from the dinosaurs, and like I just have to hack into the system and get the locks all going and stuff. So
So there you go. Next time you're annoyed because you have to go through two-factor authentication,
Yes.
you like get a text to access your email, be like, I am stopping a velociraptor. Like, this is serious. That is great. That was a much better answer than I could have possibly wanted. All right, with that, we are at time. So a huge thank you, of course, to our audience today. Thank you for spending some time with us this morning. Yeah, they say, ha ha, velociraptors. Sounds like they appreciate that answer too. Thank you to our audience for tuning in today on Zoom, on Facebook, on YouTube. We really appreciate you spending some time with us this morning. A huge, huge thank you to Remy and to Morgan for being such incredible mentors and really fun to talk to. I genuinely enjoyed this conversation. Thank you also to Ping Identity, who's one of our sponsors for Girls in Science. So we really appreciate your incredible sponsorship and everything you've done to make this whole month worth of events a success. And thank you to our other sponsors as well. And finally, a big thank you to Chesco Language Services for providing American Sign Language as well as Spanish language translation services today. We really appreciate you being here and making our programs more accessible for everybody. So stay healthy, stay curious, and we'll see you next time, everybody. Thanks for joining us for Girls in Science. Keep learning. More events, or not events, but activities are coming up. We do have one final event this afternoon on Instagram at 4 p.m., so don't miss it. Everything is on our website, though, and you can keep the learning going. Thanks, everybody. We really appreciate you being here. See you next time.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.